We have updates on the Mar-a-Lago raid. Apple workers don't want to go back to work because they fear the company is becoming too white. And we have teachers on strike in Ohio. All that and more here on The Bob Brad Show. Welcome to The Bald Brad Show. It is Tuesday, August 23rd, and as always, couldn't be happier than to spend these fine mornings doing The Bald Brad Show and hanging out with all of you, my friends and true American patriots, where we come together as a community of conservatives and Republicans, go over the stories of the day, and bring you all the news and information you need to know about. So heck, if you want to join us here at The Bald Brad Show, and like I said, we got an awesome community of conservatives and Republicans, and we'd love to have you. Hit that like and subscribe button. If you're over at Rumble, hit the plus and give us a comment down below. And if you're listening on any of the podcast airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, heck, folks, you can find us anywhere and everywhere. Leave us a lovely 5-star review. Not only would you be helping a conservative, but most importantly, you'd be supporting getting conservative thought and ideas out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. So your help and support would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, let's just jump right in the news here regarding the Mar-a-Lago raid. Almost as bad as Jim Acosta. Somehow, with Trump not being around in social media day in and day out, I'm starting to lose my Trump impression. We'll bring it back, folks, I promise. But our lead story of the day is regarding the Mar-a-Lago raid, regarding Judge Reinhart formally rejecting the DOJ's argument to keep Trump's affidavit sealed. So there's actually big news here and almost discredits what I said the other day regarding the affidavit being sealed or redacted. And we'll get into that in just one moment here. Well, Judge Bruce Reinhart on Monday admitted the FBI raid on former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home was unprecedented, and formally rejected the Justice Department's argument to keep the affidavit leading to the search under seal, citing the intense public and historical interest. Reinhart is filing Monday morning, said he rejects the government's argument that the present record justifies keeping the entire affidavit under seal. Quote, the government argues that even requiring it to redact portions of the affidavit that could not reveal agent identities or investigative sources and methods imposes an undue burden on its resources and sets a precedent that could be disruptive and burdensome in future cases, Reinhart wrote. Quote, I do not need to reach the question of whether, in some other case, these concerns could justify denying public access. They very well might. Basically saying, look, I'm looking at what we're dealing with now, this unprecedented FBI raid that took place on a former president and a political opponent of the current administration, the current president of the United States, and saying, look, I'm going to deal with this case now and kind of what's going on. I hope that this doesn't have any sort of ramifications for future cases, but if it does, basically we'll deal with it when we have to. He added, particularly given the intense public and historical interest in an unprecedented search of a former president's residence, the government has yet to show that these administrative concerns are sufficient to justifying sealing. This is really interesting to me because we're making it, or at least we're being led to believe that this whole thing was extremely justified, that they must have had gone in right when they needed to because of some nuclear thing or some serious documents that Trump had that can lead to some sort of devastation in the United States or whatever. And now he's saying, well, the government has not shown that these administrative concerns are sufficient to justify sealing. So the judge has probably seen it, I would imagine, if he's talking this way and going, look, it's not really that big of a deal to release this thing, even if it's kind of redacted. So it makes you wonder, why did they go in the first place? And it doesn't seem that serious. I mean, we talked about kind of the Ben Shapiro type of thinking on this of, look, Merrick Garland sat around for like 2 or 3 weeks on this. And so if it was as serious as he's basically saying and implying of you to do something that's unprecedented, never happened before, you know, it clearly wasn't that serious if you're willing to sit on it for like 2 to 3 weeks is what I'm saying. And so is Ben Shapiro and others. Reinhart said he was given the Justice Department an opportunity to propose redaction, something he granted last week, giving the government a deadline of Thursday, August 25th at noon. Now, this is what I find really interesting because what I said was, you know, why release it anyways if you're just going to redact everything? And we know they're going to. It's basically just going to be all black and redacted. Why do in the first place? Because we're not going to get any information from it. But check this out because this kind of underskirts my argument. And I'm actually kind of excited to see what could happen here. There's a lot of possibilities. Let me get into that. Accordingly, it is hereby ordered that by the deadline, the government shall file under a seal a submission addressing possible redactions and providing any additional evidence or legal argument that the government believes relevant to the pending motions to unseal. But listen to what Reinhart's willing to do. Reinhart, during a highly anticipated hearing in West Palm Beach, Florida last Thursday, said the entire affidavit should not be kept under seal, despite the Justice Department's argument that the release would jeopardize future steps in the investigation and provide a roadmap for the probe. Reinhart will then review those redactions and determine how best to proceed, whether to accept the recommendations from the government, prosecutors, or perform his own redactions instead. So there's actually a little bit of a possibility here that we might be able to get more information if he doesn't agree with the government's redactions and he might just redact the thing himself. It could also go the other way, don't get me wrong, where the FBI or the government did, or the DOJ just didn't redact that much stuff and they should have redacted more. Reinhart could theoretically step in and redact even more stuff. So there is that argument as well. But I'm trying to look at a glimmer of hope here of us maybe getting more information, seeing what the hell's going on here. You're going to do this type of move and you're not going to fill us in on anything? There is reasons for that. I'm fully understanding. But at the same time, this is very unprecedented. I don't care about future cases as well. I want to know what the hell's going on here of you doing this to a man that served this country greatly. And we still haven't gotten any answers. Government prosecutor Jay Bratt last week argued that unsealing the affidavit would provide a roadmap of ongoing investigations still in the early stages. Bratt also said the country is in a volatile state, and he warned that releasing the names of witnesses or FBI agents would chill other witnesses who may still come forward. Look, I don't know if anybody here that watches the Bald Brad Show, including myself, I don't need to know the FBI agents' names. I don't give a crap. They're the 31 agents. Look, they did their job. They were told and given an order to do what they needed to do. I'm not upset with them. I'm upset with the FBI, Merrick Garland, the FBI director. They're the ones that authorized this and put those agents in those places, and they were just doing their job. So my quill or qual or whatever the hell the word is, my problem is not with them. My problem is Merrick Garland with Joe Biden, who's claiming he didn't know, which, like I said, this guy is so far gone off this planet that I can actually believe it. I can actually believe it if he says, oh, I didn't know. Nobody ever told me about it. He could have been probably fully briefed on a load of crap and completely forgotten about it. I mean, he is in the best situation to commit so many crimes because everybody's going to look at it and probably believe the guy like, yeah, you didn't know anything that's going on. I mean, shit, you had no clue, did you? You probably authorized something and didn't even know where you were. So it's all believable. But it goes on to say this. This is not a precedent we want to set, Bratt said. The government is very concerned about the safety of witnesses in this case. Really? Okay. It's astonishing when they always are hypocritical in what they say, because the FBI is known to have leaked witnesses before. They're known to leak documents, but all of a sudden now they're worried about people's safety and names and, such an early case. But before, hey, they're willing to just spread information to people at football games or baseball games, leak documents to the press. Yeah. So it's always funny that when people are getting pissed off now because you did something you maybe shouldn't have done, now they're like, oh, well, hey, safety, folks, safety first. Yeah. Okay. Media organizations arguing that the affidavit should be unsealed and the government, Reinhart, all agreed that this is a unique and unprecedented case. Charles Tobin, who argued for the Washington Post and other media organizations, said that the raid of Mar-a-Lago was one of the most significant law enforcement actions in nation's history, saying the public interest could not be greater. Everybody's wondering what the hell's going on. Democrats, Republicans, independents, hell, socialists are going, what the hell? And everybody should be freaked out on both parties. I don't think Democrats realize the kind of door that was just opened here. I don't think it's actually hit them yet until you get Trump in office or DeSantis, where a lot of conservative Republicans, myself, going, look, you just opened Pandora's box. I say whoever's next president that's Republican or conservative, start just raiding everybody because now this is what you wanted, so now you're going to get it. Go in there after Hillary, go after Hunter, go after Joe, go after Obama, go after Eric Holder, go after everybody then because this is what you want. Now you're going to get it shoved in your face. I'm done playing these fun games as conservatives and Republicans where we're supposed to be always like the little good girls or good boys. And it's like, oh, we shouldn't be doing that. Look, because they did that, we shouldn't be doing that. You know what? If they want to play bad, let's play a little bit bad too. Start doing this to everybody then. So when Trump gets in office, I expect to just unleash the full FBI on everybody in the Democrat Party. Go crazy. Trump, while not in the party in the hearing, demanded that the affidavit be unsealed and released in an unredacted form. I don't agree with that. Again, this comes into just because I'm a Trump supporter, I like Trump, doesn't mean I agree with everything the man says. We do not need to know the FBI's names, those agents that went into his house. That is not important to you or I. I do believe in some sort of privacy here. Like I said, they're just doing their jobs. They're just going in, listening to their boss, and just following through with it. They have a pension. They have a family to take care of. They need to do what they need to do. So my beef is not with them. Again, it's with Merrick Garland and the Biden administration and the FBI. In the interest of transparency, I call for the immediate release of the completely unredacted affidavit pertaining to the horrible and shocking break-in. Even the whole affidavit, look, I'm okay with some parts being redacted. I just want to know what documents they were looking for. Like, what was so important to do this type of raid? Because it's not looking good for the DOJ. And quite frankly, I don't even know, even if it was nuclear codes, I would imagine those nuclear codes aren't even able to be utilized anymore because of the switching of administration. So if it was nuclear codes and it was something that serious, like I said, why'd they wait 18 months? It just doesn't make sense. It smells like shit, you guys. And usually in accounting, when we're auditing or we're doing taxes, if it smells like SHIT, usually is SHIT. And so I'm seeing something here where it's leading me towards there's not really much. And Reinhart's wording makes it seem like it's not really much. And the government's freaking out because they know it's not much. And so it's about to all be released. So that's kind of the update. What's going on here? We might have to wait a little while for it to see if it's going to be all redacted, or we might get a little bit of kind of some information here. But like I said, it kind of underskirts a little bit of what I said yesterday. So trying to always update you folks on changing. My opinion changes as well. Well, moving into our next news story of the day, we got Apple in here. And no, it's not about the new iPad or new MacBook Pro, or hell, that new Apple Watch is probably coming out in September, whatever it may be. Workers at Apple Corporation, like that cylinder, that sphere that you see up there in California. Well, Apple workers are citing fear of company becoming whiter and environmental concerns among reasons not to show up to work. I mean, it's so hard to say without laughing, you guys. Understand that I'm trying to like say it, and in my mind, I'm hysterically just laughing. Even sitting in front of the camera, I'm trying not to laugh. I'm doing my darnest. So much so, I literally sweat because I'm trying to hold in my laughter all the time. So earlier this month, Apple CEO Tim Cook and the company's senior vice president of software engineering reportedly sent out memos to their employees indicating that as of September 5th, workers in the Bay Area, in other words, near the company's headquarters in Santa Clara County, would be expected to turn up to the office 3 days a week. Cook noted that in-person collaboration is essential to Apple culture. We all know every company has a culture. Google, whether you're in a family firm or even a large corporation like this, they all have their own culture that they want to develop. And if this is what the CEO wants, if this is what your boss wants, the boss gets, okay? It's not one of those things that like, well, let's start a petition like they did. Let's start doing this whole thing, getting signatures. Your boss says to come into work. Your ass is going into work. And what's crazy is we've created such a culture, the left, the progressive left, where they're like, we're going to complain and we're going to do this whole shenanigans when our boss is telling us to do something. Well, we know better. What the hell does our boss know? I mean, it's crazy. If you don't want to go into work and you're not willing to go in 3 days a week, just go find somewhere else to work. That's my theory. Get the hell out. There's plenty of people that can do your job. Plenty of people. This news was not well received by a number of Apple workers, some of whom believe a return to work will make Apple whiter. Yes, like skin color, whiter, and impact the environment. Can you just imagine if a white person said, oh, well, the company's going to be darker? Just put yourself in that situation. Do you think people would lose their minds? But because they're talking about white people, it's completely okay. We've seen such a reversal of racism, or at least discrimination, where it's like whenever somebody says something about white people, it's okay. It's fine. Because the white man did all these crazy things in the past. So because of those injustices in the past, those living in current times have to pay the price for it. So it's okay if somebody's racist against white people, but it's not okay in the reversal. Racism's not okay anywhere. So it's amazing they get away with this type of language. And the corporation's allowing them theoretically to get away with this language in some part, right? Because look, whoever came up with that word of Apple being whiter, like they're just okay with it. Like, oh, whatever, it's fine. We'll kind of we'll work around your guys' schedules. Don't bother coming in. Check this out. Apple Together, an internal employee advocacy group, which touts itself as a global solidarity union made up of workers from all parts of Apple organization for a say in our workspace, started a petition which presently has hundreds of signatures with the aim of hitting 500 altogether. I mean, has anybody seen how big Apple's headquarters is? 500 people? That's like the janitorial staff. Are you kidding me? That's like the gardeners. That's nobody. Another petition was created by Apple Together Cite, which has allegedly received, now this is kind of significant, has allegedly received additional signatures from both current and former Apple employees in excess of 1,400. Now, is that number significant? Yes, but look at former Apple employees. So say you got an employee that had a tough time at Apple, didn't really jive with the culture or the company or whatever it may be, is probably more willing to sign this type of thing because they're not working there anymore compared to an actual current employer that might be fearful of losing their job. I wouldn't be signing this. I would be going into work because I need to pay my bills. I need to increase that 401k. I need to do something. But you got these people complaining about whiteness and environmental stuff. Where was all this when you signed up for the company in the first place? Why were you not complaining about it then? Or are you just willing to hop on the bandwagon because you needed a job? And now that you have the job and you've been having the perks of working at home, now you want to complain about it. The petition claims that Apple's leadership teams have failed to consider the unique demands of each job role, as well as, get this, the diversity of individuals. They failed to consider, just randomly. You have one of the most leftist, at least progressive leftist companies in the entire United States that deals with diversity, that is willing to censor people. I mean, literally, conservatives try to start their own platform. And Apple, speaking of Parler, was like, you know what? We don't agree with this. We're going to stick with Twitter. And we're not even going to bother putting you on our app store because you don't really meet our terms of service. Because you're not going to sit there and pick and choose on who you want to censor and ban from your app. So they're trying to tell us here, which I was going to say, don't tell me that the diversity of individuals and they're not sitting there and failing to basically have the unique demands of each job role. Does anybody believe that? The petitioner and their co-signers demand that Apple allows each of us to work directly with our immediate manager to figure out what kind of flexible work arrangements are best for each of us and for Apple. It's amazing how they're turning into most of this like socialized type of environment where it's the workers that are going to dictate what the company wants and what the company does. It's not the heads of the company and the executives. It's not the bosses that are going to dictate what the employees do. It's the employees that are going to dictate what they want to do, which is almost a form of a socialized environment in terms of the workforce. It's crazy that they're getting away with this stuff. I mean, if I was a boss, your ass would be fired so fast. I tell your ass to come in, you're coming in. Additionally, they demand that their work arrangements should not require higher level approvals, complex procedures, or providing private information. So it's not good enough that they're trying to push this like, well, we're going to take a step further other than working with our direct managers to make sure that we're in the best situation possible. And so is the company. We're going to take it a step further and we want work arrangements as well. You guys, tell me if any of you would mess with your company by doing all this stuff, putting your name down on a petition, right? Basically giving yourself a red flag, telling your boss what's going to work best for you and supposedly his or her company. Would any of you ever think about doing that? We live in different times, I guess, because I would never. Apple together suggests on its site that the requirement to report to the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays, along with an additional day selected on the basis of what works best for a worker's individual team, is almost no flexibility at all. What? The fact that you get to only have to go in 3 days a week is I think that's pretty damn nice to me. Rather than saying, hey, you need to come on all 5 days right off the bat, which they could do, but no, they're going to complain about having to go into work 3 days a week. Apple together cites safety, health, and environmental considerations and just plain being happier and more productive amongst its reasons. I'm so sorry. It's so hard. Apple together cites safety, health, and environmental considerations and just plain being happier and more productive among its reasons for rejecting the summons back to Apple's $5 billion headquarters in Cupertino, California, which cites 175 acres. It's just like little kids are writing this like, hey, it's like a bunch of ASB or running for senior class president and going, we should cut class time down to 1 hour a day because it would make us happier, more productive. In actuality, it wouldn't. These are adults. These are literally adults. There's also demographic reasoning behind the petitioner's rejection of the proposed hybrid work model. Requiring everyone to relocate to the office will change the makeup of our workforce. It will make Apple younger, wider, more male-dominated, more neuronormative. I honest to God don't even know what that means. That's the first time I'm ever hearing it. More able-bodied, which I heard that one before with the Home Depot thing, which we got a lot of subscribers from that as well. Finally heard able-bodied before. But you gotta love this. I mean, which side of the aisle do you guys think these people are signing this petition land on, right? Apple younger, white, more male dominated. You think these are these feminists, right? These modern day feminists, these progressive leftists. I mean, able body, neuronormative. Unbelievable. Well, check this out. Apple's workforce is presently 65% male and basically 35% female, 44% white, 28% Asian, 15% Hispanic, 9% black. Its employees are most likely to be members of the Democrat Party. Shocker. And according to Zippa, the average employee makes about $127,000. You're willing to give about $127K for complaining that you have to go into work 3 days a week, and 2 days you get to work from home. Crazy. Just absolutely crazy. You have Elon Musk writing, anyone who wishes to do remote working must be in the office for a minimum, and I mean a minimum of 40 hours per week, or depart Tesla. So if you recall, Tesla a while back jumped in the mix and saying, look, we're bringing people back into the office. That's what we built it for. That's what I want as the boss, as the head honcho. If you're not willing to do it, then just leave. Or in other words, just be fired. But he's giving you the option to just resign yourself if you're not going to come in. So like I said, I'll keep you up to date here because I'm curious if Apple is just going to fire these people for doing what they're doing. Because if you don't show up, it's subordination, folks. You're out. You're gone. It's rug. It's like Jim Acosta. See you dead. They're going to be Brian Steltered. They're going to be ousted. That's what's going on at Apple. Just crazy news. And other crazy news here for our last story of the day. We have teachers from Ohio, the largest school district, are on strike. And I actually partially agree with the reasoning of being on strike. Well, we'll jump into that in one moment. So Columbus students are scheduled to return to school in just 2 days. And so this isn't looking good for the strike because it doesn't seem like they're anywhere close to coming to an agreement. But their teachers have gone on strike. Yesterday, the teachers union for the largest school district in Ohio voted to go on strike after 94% of its members rejected the school board's contract. That's almost everybody, okay? So they're all on board here with what's taking place. The teachers began picketing outside the district's 20 schools on Monday morning. The Columbus Board of Education stated that because of the strike, students would start online remote learning with full-time substitutes in the meantime, meaning there ain't much learning that's going to be taking place, let's be honest. The teachers union, the Columbus Education Association, filed an official notice on August 10th to the Columbus Board of Education stating that an agreement had to be reached within 10 days. After the union filed the intent to strike notice, CEA spokesperson Regina Fuentes said, CEA has consistently maintained that we are fighting not just for CEA members, but for our students and community. This is why CEA will continue that fight until a fair agreement is reached for the schools Columbus students deserve. Following months of meetings with federal mediators, the district and union could not come to an agreement. The Columbus Board of Education made its final offer on Sunday. The board released this statement. Check this out. You had Jennifer Adair, the board's president, expressed that she was disappointed with the decision made by the CEA. She said, we offered a generous compensation package for teachers and provisions that would have a positive impact on classrooms. Our offer was also responsive to the concerns that have been raised by CEA during the negotiations process. So just because they say that does not mean that it actually meets all those requirements and doesn't mean that it was actually the package that the teachers and others were looking for. Just a heads up. The CEA requested the school board provide higher wages for all teachers, smaller class sizes, heating and air conditioning inside all classrooms. Look, we're in 2022, folks. If you don't have heating or at least air conditioning in your classrooms, there's a problem there. Where's the funding going? That's where I want to know. Because if they're complaining about they're not getting enough money and you have more students in your classroom, meaning you're getting more money from the government per student, where's the money going? Because I'll tell you what, if you can't even afford air conditioning, that's crazy in 2022. The reason for that is not necessarily for the teachers' comfortability, but also for the students. Because if your students aren't comfortable and say they're sweating or it's super hot or super cold, now not only are you fighting against trying to teach them math or something like that, but now you're fighting against the elements of just trying to keep them just sane and on point and paying attention, basically. So it's one less thing that you have to worry about. On August 28th, the school board said that it had offered the teachers an annual 3% raise. Folks, okay. To be just quite honest with all of you, when I was an accountant, I was totally against teachers getting the type of pay that they're getting. Now, being a teacher on the other side, teachers honestly are severely underpaid. I'm all on board with understanding there's good teachers and bad teachers. I've meditated on this. I've tried to think about how we could sit there and actually formulate and assess teachers. It's extremely hard because not only are you assessing somebody, that are they doing their job? Are they teaching? Are they using strategies? All this stuff. But it's really hard to assess somebody on somebody else's performance. So just because you have a lot of students failing does not mean you're a bad teacher. You could be teaching your heart out. You could be doing everything you possibly can, and you'd still have students fail. That's happened to me before. Literally used every strategy that I've ever been taught in my master's degree, and I would still have a lot of students fail an exam. So what does that tell me? If you look at their homework, not doing their homework. If you look at their study guides, not doing the study guide. They're not studying. They're not retaining the information. That's not your fault. There's a lot of studying and certain skill sets that need to be developed outside the classroom. So that's what I mean by, there's a lot of shenanigans that go on that I think a lot of people aren't aware of. And you're trying to offer a 3% raise to people when you got 8.5% inflation. They're losing 5% there. Now, you could say as a taxpayer, well, that's not my fault, and you'd be right. But if you want to retain good teachers in a district, you're going to have to pay them, folks. That's why you're carving out these inner cities and the kids aren't learning nothing, because you're not willing to pay the teachers, not you specifically, but just the government officials aren't willing to pay the teachers the price. Look, if you're going to pay me 6 figures to go into an inner city and teach those kids, I'm going to go teach those kids with a master's degree and kind of know what the hell I'm doing, right? Compared to like somewhere else where it's like, hey, if you're going to be paying me somewhere else, a good amount of money, whatever it may be, I'm going to go where the money's at. We got to pay these people money so we can get teachers in there. A $2,000 bonus and a promise to install air conditioning in all classrooms. The board also mentioned that it would consider smaller class sizes. Consider small class sizes. I have anywhere from 32 to 34 students in my class, okay? These buildings were built, I don't know, probably in like the 50s. Wall to wall to you literally can't actually fit more desks in there. I mean, it's wall to wall. You have to actually structure it to where you have to like squeeze past people just to get in. So they're basically cramming all these people in these class sizes. To give you an idea, traditional class sizes are supposed to be anywhere from 12 to 15 students. That's supposed to be where classes are at. So we've over doubled class sizes in everybody's classroom. So not only are you paying teachers less, not only are they losing money every year, not only are you not even giving them air conditioning and the students themselves, but you're not even considering smaller class sizes. So the education system's really just falling apart here. It needs to be restructured. It needs to be refigured out because you're putting a lot of stress on just an individual that's supposed to care for 34 people. Sometimes it's even more than that, folks. And it's just, it's honestly, you're setting them up for failure because it's really hard to reach 34 people in a single class. I mean, I have to sit there and actually speed walk around my classroom to try and meet and help with every individual student that I can. You're not going to meet with everybody. It's almost impossible every class. The CEA stated that it is it's not content with the language in the contract regarding air conditioning for classrooms. Fuentes stated, it is with a full understanding of the sacrifices that students, parents, and teachers will make together to win the schools Columbus students deserve that CEA members overwhelmingly rejected the board's last, best, and final offer tonight and voted to strike. Now, what a lot of people will do, and most of this is from the progressive left, and I'm curious to see if there's any conservative Republicans who do this, but everybody always goes, oh, the students, the kids. I'm telling you right now, the kids could not be more stoked that they're going to be doing online learning. They couldn't be more stoked that basically they don't have school. So this whole thing of like, oh, the kids are they're horrified. They can't believe it. I'm sure there's maybe one or two. The vast majority of students could give a 2. A lot of students think teachers should get paid more. They see the struggle we go through. They see what happens in the school. They're there. They live it. They understand it. There's bad teachers that are getting paid too much money that should be ousted. And there's good teachers that aren't getting paid enough money. To put this in perspective, the schedule is basically socialized. And what I mean by that is it's based on, years of service, based on your degree. And so you could be a math teacher, just, going balls to the wall, teaching math every day, basically teaching the kids who don't want to learn math in the first place. You're doing everything you possibly can, working hard, and you got somebody over here teaching basket weaving that's basically doing nothing. And you're getting paid the exact same amount. Does that make sense to all of you? Because it doesn't to me. There needs to be a restructuring of this. You should be able to negotiate your pay. You should be able to get paid what you're worth. If you're a good teacher, then you should get paid for being a good teacher. If you're a bad teacher, you should not be tenured. You should be out. So I'm on board with a lot of you. Again, I'm not coming from a career of teaching. I'm coming from a career of accounting. So I agree with still a lot of my thinking that I had before. I think there's a lot of good teachers that just aren't getting paid enough money. I mean, really, I understand you only work in basically 9-10 months out of the year, but you should get paid for, honestly, you're taking care of, I think I have 210 students this year. I mean, that's a small business that you literally have to basically work with, right? You're doing the grading, the writing, you're creating content, you're creating experiments. I mean, there's so much stuff that goes into it that I don't think a lot of people realize that you should be at least compensated for what you're worth. And like I said, a 3% raise, folks, that's a slap in the face, especially with what's going on. It really is. And you don't even have air conditioning? What a joke. But again, the kids. If they cared about the kids, you guys, the air conditioning would have been in like 10 years ago. Okay, so I don't need to hear this. I'm like, oh, they care about the kids and all this stuff. It makes me wonder if they even have pencils. Yeah. So this whole thing here is just silly. The way these cities, these Democrat-ran cities, really run their schools is crazy. If you want to see how schools need to be ran, look at Florida right now, folks, with Ron DeSantis doing yeoman's work, doing what he needs to do, having parents getting involved with their schools and making a change. That's what needs to happen. Well, folks, thank you so much for joining me here on the Bald Brad Show. A little bit different story, a little bit different articles than what we're used to seeing. Hopefully Joe Biden might come back, or hopefully not, because Jesus, it's going a lot better, at least somewhat, without him in the White House. So a little bit better. Don't get me wrong, things are still bad, but the news cycle at least isn't as bad as it would have been if Joe Biden was fumbling through his words, fighting with the teleprompter, saying asinine things. We're losing out on content, but at the same time, at least things aren't going away where he's deciding to pull out of a country, or, handing out more checks like they're hot cakes, or saying something stupid again in front of other world leaders. Let's just keep him on vacation, folks. Somewhat. With that being said, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I love all of you. Thank you so much for always joining me. You really are true American patriots, and I'll see you tomorrow here on the Bald Brad Show.